All right, guys, so we're kind of through this first off-season week here, which is great. We can start getting into off-season business. We're not ready to do draft quite yet, guys. We'll get there. The work will begin next week, but we're still going to kind of focus over the next week or two up until the week of the Senior Bowl. We will focus on recapping the season, figuring out exactly where the Giants are in every aspect, and having some fun along the way as well. And, of course, we're taking your calls at 973-667-1960. So here we go, guys. Let's start here. We kind of want, before we talk about Wild Card Weekend, want to do some offensive and defensive MVPs for the Giants. And I don't think these are necessarily easy choices this year, to be quite honest with you. So we'll each give our choice in each category, then we'll do some Wild Card Weekend breakdown. Mr. Dottino, I will give you the honors. Give me your Giants offensive MVP for the year 2020.
Well, you know, John, I really had a hard time with this one. Obviously, the Giants' offense struggled throughout the course of the season. So I thought, should I go out of the box? And I thought about it, and then I said, you know what? I'm just going to go with Daniel Jones. I wanted to pick Darius Slayton. I wanted to, but I've got him down for double-digit drops this season, and that's a problem for me, especially since he only caught 3 touchdown passes. I wanted to go with Wayne Gallman because he was really an important part of the team's winning streak and kind of getting back into the race. But ultimately, I did go with Daniel Jones. I liked his completion percentage. I thought his interception percentage, which, by the way, went down this year in spite of the fact that he had some early turnovers, I thought that was a good thing. I thought he clearly matured and showed a lot more in terms of pre-snap decision-making. I wound up going with Daniel, and it's a more intangible situation than it is stats.
Yeah, I did not go with Jones. I have trouble giving to somebody that has more picks than touchdowns. I thought the Giants' passing offense, quite frankly, was kind of a weakness all year.
Yeah, but John, he had more touchdowns than picks. It was 11 touchdowns, 10 picks.
Oh, I mean, we're talking minor, though.
Sorry.
We're talking one
more.
All
right, no, but
interceptions.
No, you're right. I actually have the numbers right. That flipped late in the year. But the bottom line is that the passing offense was one of the weaknesses of the team over the course of the year. So I have trouble giving it to anybody involved in that, receiver or quarterback, to be quite honest with you, because all of them are involved in that, and the offensive line, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
They weren't helpful with the passing game either. So it kind of left me only one choice. And my only choice was Wayne Gallman. Mm-hmm. And I thought he played good football. I thought he broke tackles. He made some big plays. I thought he did everything pretty well. He had a couple lapses in pass pro, but I thought he was solid. He didn't have many drops. And I just thought when the Giants were winning, the best part of their game was their running attack, and that was Wayne Gallman. So I had to go with the running back. And you guys know me. I'm not a big running backs have value type of guy. I'm with that 100%. But I think you have to, Lance, to me, pick the part of the offense that was the strongest, which was the running game, and then pick the guy who was the best in that respect. And I think that was Wayne Gallman.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick had I gone before you. So thank you for taking my selection. But I pretty much agree with you from that standpoint. I think it's actually a no-brainer. I think it's pretty much the obvious choice this year. I also take into consideration, remember, Saquon Barkley goes down in week 2. And we knew coming into this season the run game was going to be critical no matter whether Barkley was healthy or not, okay? You were not going to put the offense solely in the hands of Daniel Jones and expect him to duplicate what he put forth in his rookie year in terms of touchdown to interception ratio because you figure the defenses were going to adjust and so forth. So they needed a presence of a ground attack, and you lose your most dangerous weapon, and for them to still be able to put together 7 straight games where they ran for over 100 yards, and that coincided, as John hinted at, with the winning streak, Gallman was a consistent fixture. He may have not been flashy. He may have not had a bunch of games over 100 yards, him as an individual. But when you gave him the ball, I thought he was very productive. He had a career year, and he helped the Giants' offense have some consistency on the ground where when you were playing the Giants, you had to somewhat respect the run game. He also showed some flashes as a receiver. He got 6 touchdowns. There was a stretch where he had a rushing touchdown just about every single week. His presence and him taking advantage of his opportunity, that I think was big. You had Barkley go down. You needed somebody to fill that void. Goldman answered the call. Remember, last year was not about Wayne Goldman not being productive. It was a matter of Wayne Goldman not getting playing time. So this year the numbers increased because he got more playing time and he made something out of it. So I think when you combine all of those forces, to me, it's the clear and obvious answer that he was the offensive MVP.
Now, Paul, how much of your selection of Daniel Jones had to do with his running? Because I know you hate the running part of a quarterback's game, but I think the argument can be made when the Giants' offense started clicking with the run game, it was because partly of Daniel Jones' ability to make chunk plays with his legs.
Yeah, that had to be part of it, John. I don't like to say that.
I know you don't. That's why I asked you.
but there's no doubt that, he converted a number of first down opportunities and kept drives alive. And, I know you asked for MVPs. I kind of also did another sidelight, and I had a bunch of other lesser awards that I just wanted to throw out after we're done with this. And my step-up guy of the year was Wayne Goldman.
Well, Paul, what
just
I wanna,
so you know.
Right, what I want to do, though, I kind of want to stretch these awards over the course of the next, couple weeks. So let's just stick with MVPs today.
Okay.
And then we'll do things like most improved, best rookie, things like that, and we'll kind of spread that out to give us some content over the next couple of weeks. So I don't want you to empty your bag right now.
I won't do that. I won't do that, but I do want to address Goldman because he was my step-up guy this year because I thought he made the largest jump and was a significant contributor for all the reasons you guys just said, and it's why he was one of my 3 considerations, but ultimately – he had one 100-yard game.
No, and that's fair too.
And that's I couldn't do it.
Well, here's the thing: he only had one 100-yard games. Daniel Jones didn't have a 300-yard game.
That's true.
That's why.
True.
Well, but that's why this question was so difficult, right? When you look at an offense that averages 17 points per game, only scored 24 or more points twice over the course of the year. It's hard, and I wish I could have found I considered thinking maybe a Nick Gates or a Zeitler. I thought those are the 2 most consistent offensive linemen throughout the year after the first couple that were a rough spot for Gates. But I have trouble giving that to a guard or a center. So I had to go with Gallman. And now I think when we head over to the defensive side of the ball, this is difficult for a different reason.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because you have a few pretty good choices here that I think you can make a good argument for why one of – I would say 3 guys, maybe 4, could be your defensive MVP. I'm going to let Lance go first here since he was stuck in 3rd on the last contest. Go ahead, Lance.
Well, yeah, there's a few attractive candidates, but I think that I would go with James Bradberry under these circumstances, especially when you define the term valuable and what that does for everybody else on the team. I think Patrick Graham said to himself, because of the consistency of James Bradberry's play, whether I go zone or man-to-man, the trust factor is there that I don't have to worry about a certain facet or entity of the field or a part of our defense when I have James Bradberry there, because I know he's not going to have a brain fart, for the lack of a better phrase. He's not going to give up that big play, and he's going to be in the right position. That, to me, screams value. And he lived up to those expectations. You think about, he led the team in interceptions. He led the team in passes defense. He was up there in the NFL lead in passes defense. Then he made his first Pro Bowl. So, all of those items get check marks. And what he then did for Patrick Graham in the rest of the defense, whether it be, being able to mix and match the other cornerback and not having to worry about the other side of the field, how to maybe move some safeties into the slot and so forth. I think when you take all those factors into consideration, Bradberry equates to most valuable because not just because of his production, but what he opened up for the rest of the defense.
It's funny, Lance, you say that, and Dan Salamone had a question in our written Factor Fiction for the website, and the question I believe the statement he posed to us for Factor Fiction was, I believe Leonard Williams was had the most impressive performance this year. I think that was the statement, right? And it's funny because I agree with you. And this is why I cut in front of you, Paul, because I agree with Lance. I'm going to go with Bradberry here. But I thought Leonard Williams had the most impressive performance because I think his overall numbers were very impressive given the position that he played. But I'm with you. I think what Bradberry kind of allowed Patrick Graham to do defensively, and frankly will allow Dave Gettleman to do when he hits free agency this year and trying to, circle out this defense a little bit, does make him the most valuable piece on this defense. Bradberry can play man. He can play zone. He can play off coverage. He can play press coverage. We've seen him convert into safeties, into a safety formation in some of these creative zone defenses that Patrick Graham puts out there. To your point, Lance, he never misses an assignment. So you put all those things together, that to me is value. And in an NFL where the passing game is king, I will go with the quote-unquote, and I hate using this term because I don't think anyone really is this anymore, but the quote-unquote shutdown cornerback in James Bradbury, and he was my defensive MVP as well. Paul?
Yeah, fellas, you know where I'm going to go here because it's razor thin between him and Blake Martinez, and I've got to go with Martinez. You know, you look at the third highest tackle total, over 150 this year, and the thing for me is this. He is the coach on the field. He is the extension of Patrick Graham. The defensive scheme that the Giants used this year was very multiple. It was very complex. By all of the testimony that we heard from even guys like Logan Ryan, who have been around the NFL for a very long time, it was the most complex defense that these guys have ever had to play before. Well, Martinez is in the heart of that defense. He's the one who's making the calls, who's getting all the information from Graham. He's not only setting up the linebackers, he's also setting up the defensive linemen. Look, the Giants have not had a legitimate, quality inside linebacker who could run a defense since Antonio Pierce was with Steve Spagnuolo. Okay? And we've seen that for years. We see how important it is. We have seen the dearth of quality play from that position. I mean, they got a little bit out of Beeson, but he was hurt all the time and basically couldn't stay on the field. He would have been that kind of guy had he been able to play, but he was always hurt.
Lance, I don't know about you. I'm shocked Paul didn't take Leonard Williams.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised, too, that he went in a completely different direction than I was thinking.
Paul, not Leonard Williams?
No. Blake Martinez was the defensive MVP of this team. I can't express it any further than that because remember, Martinez is the guy setting everything up at the line.
Okay.
He's making sure that that Williams and Tomlinson and Lawrence are all in the right spot, filling the right gap, and they're doing what they need to do so that everybody else can do it.
No, and those are all good arguments, and I'm not arguing. I think you're on the button with all of those, but I'm going to make the argument for Leonard Williams then because that's who I was going between Williams and Bradbury. I think those, to me, were the two most valuable guys to this defense because I think the one thing we saw late in the year, especially against Arizona, Baltimore, Cleveland, when the Giants could not generate pass rush, it really didn't matter what their secondary did because if the guy's sitting back there and he's throwing forever, bottom line is that you're going to complete passes in the league, especially when you're a zone-heavy team. And when Williams was impactful and he was able to get to the quarterback, no other Giants player had 5 sacks.
Well, you see, you just threw out something a minute ago, and you added a category when you said who was the most impressive.
Well, no, but
for me,
right.
Williams was the most impactful.
Okay, well, see, because I think,
but that's a different award for me.
Well, I think impact and value are very similar. That's why
those
I think
are somewhat synonymous with one another.
Yeah, I think impressive is a little bit different. That's kind of like defensive player of the year, right? You know what I mean? I think value, Paul. When the pass rush wasn't there, and Williams, let's be honest, was a gigantic part of what the Giants did from a pass rush perspective. He was it in terms of guys that were able to consistently win one-on-one.
Yeah, sure.
So that's why, to me, he had immense value, not to mention his ability to stop the run, which allowed you to play 2 safeties deep, which allowed you to do all these creative things in the secondary. So, to me, he was my runner-up by a hair's breadth, Lance. Like, it was really, really close. But Williams, to me, was just really, really good this year. To me, the second-best defensive tackle in the league after Aaron Donald this season. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of other good defensive tackles out there.
I asked both of you this one question, and I'm not trying to be insulting to anybody. But let's just say Kelvin Shepard was in place of Blake Martinez this year. Is this Giants defense even close to being what it was?
You're dropping a Kelvin Shepard on me. That's pretty good.
And you went quite back, too.
Yeah, I know. That's a while ago.
I thought you were going to go a little bit more relevant.
Kelvin Shepard actually had some decent tackle numbers, and he started a whole season for this team.
Like Jonathan Goff or B.J. Goodson or something like that. You dropped a Kelvin Shepard.
Well, because Shepard had what I call empty tackle numbers. He compiled some decent stats, and he played the whole season, and he was in the middle of that defense. Now put him in Blake Martinez's shoes this year. You tell me how good this defense is.
Well, there's no doubt about it that Blake had value. I don't think Blake's numbers were stunning, though, Paul, based on the fact that he
No,
did this at
150
Green
tackles?
Bay.
No, you're right. That's not much.
No, well, wait, hold on a minute. You didn't let me finish my statement, number one. If you look at what he did with the Packers throughout his career, Blake put up consistently 150 tackles. So he basically did exactly what he's been doing throughout the course of his career. That was my point. I'm not saying that doesn't hold value, but Blake's performance wasn't stunning. I think if you would have said Blake's going to sign with the Giants, you could pencil in for about 150, I would have expected him to get that. He was a consistent staple with Green Bay. I don't think the Giants got him to do anything that was 10 times different.
What does that matter, though?
It wasn't.
What he did with Green Bay and what the expectations were has nothing to do with this award.
No, Paul, frankly, I have Blake Martinez third on my list. So, and he's not that, and I'm serious. And he's not that far away from Bradbury and Williams. So I'm not going to argue with you. I thought Blake was great. Good in the running game. They played a zone-heavy scheme, so I think he was able to excel at that. But I think generally when you look at value across the league, just look at who gets paid in free agency, right? Who gets paid? Corners get paid, pass rushers get paid.
I understand.
And that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, those are the most integral pieces of a defense.
We're splitting hairs here.
No, of course,
honestly,
I know we are.
Williams, Bradbury, Martinez, any one of those three could very easily be the guy.
And by the way, I want to throw out some laurels, too, for guys that don't get talked about that I think should be. And, Paul, you mentioned Logan Ryan. He's basically the Blake Martinez for the secondary, for lack of a better term.
He's my X Factor of the year.
Okay. Don't empty your bag, Dottino.
I'm sorry, but you're bringing it up.
Labeling every single player on the
roster.
roster.
You're bringing these things up. What am I going to do?
All right, very quickly before we get to the calls, we already have a caller on the line here. But I think Logan Ryan was really good in his role. I think Jabril Peppers was very good in his role. And I think Dalvin Tomlinson and Dexter Lawrence were very good in their role. So I think when you look at this, we just listed the three defensive linemen, Blake Martinez, Peppers, Ryan, Bradbury, throw in McKinney, who you know is going to be a big part of this next year. That's already 8 guys that you know that you have confidence in to be a big part of this defense. I don't remember the last time, guys, that we were able to say, and again, that's assuming Williams and Tomlinson are re-signed, and we don't know if that's going to happen, where you feel really good about 8 guys that get regular playing time on this Giants defense. When's the last time we were able to say that?
Well, I think what you basically said is an indicator that there's playmakers on multiple levels of the defense, John. I don't know if we've had an opportunity to say that. I think in previous years, you maybe were able to point to a few guys here or there, but maybe they were at one position.
But not 8. I mean,
as opposed to the depth this year at every position.
I felt pretty good about the 2012 defense, John.
Well, that was a long time ago, Paul. That was 9 years ago.
Well, wait. But you asked.
No, I know. No,
you said,
fair,
when was the last time?
Oh, okay, I got you.
The last time was probably 12. 16 had some players, but not as many as you just named.
Yeah, I felt 16.
The 12 defense had a lot of guys.
Yeah, I felt 16 was star heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had some really good guys, but it wasn't as deep. I agree with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, 16, you had pretty much Damon Snacks Harrison. You had Olivier Vernon, Janoris Jenkins, because all those guys were brought in free agency.
And JPP, too. JPP also.
Yeah, JPP, that's fair. But remember, there was still, the injury concerns with respect to that. And then you also, on top of that, I would argue when
Collins,
you took
Jack
one
Rabbit.
guy, Landon Collins, but when one guy went down,
it was a huge
on
drop
that
off.
defense, it was a problem. Case in point, when DRC goes down in the playoff game, what did Aaron Rodgers do, right?
Yeah.
He
Game over.
immediately starts to target the slot. So I think that is much different than this defense, where also a lot of the younger guys played this season, which added to the depth, where you could point to a number of guys in the secondary, some of the young linebackers contributing outside of Blake Martinez, and then, of course, the rotational group of guys up front. Not superstars, but at least substance there. I think that's the biggest difference between now versus 16.
No, I'm with you. I think that's fair, and I think the defensive coordinator's ability to kind of scheme around that, too,